All righty. Now it is my pleasure to formally and for real introduce Dr. Sailesh Rao. Sailesh, please take it away. You got a lot of fans here and a lot of love. You're in the most loving, supportive environment I could imagine. I'm just so happy to be a part of it and to welcome everyone. Sailesh, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jamin. Let me start sharing the presentation. So this is an update on the webinars that I did last year. And looking back at what I did last year, I can see things have evolved quite a bit. So I removed the tagline, "Make America Brave Again," because some people were not very happy with that. So I just said, this is the politicals talk that I'm going to give. And also how not to go extinct, I'm calling it now Healing the Planet or How Not to Go Extinct. So, because we need to bring the positive out first. So this is the second talk in the webinar series. Last week I did the overview. And so the next one, I'm going to skip the 13th and I'll do it on the 20th, the social. And then ecological on the 27th, spiritual, economy, personal. So I removed all the tags, so because I'm not sure if I want to use the same tags anymore. But the topics are going to be the same. And all the webinars are being recorded, I presume, right? And we are going to extract out the videos and load them and put them on this web page once we have all 7 done, because otherwise the webinars are not going to be consistent one with the other. So, okay, so talking about the political, again, I want to acknowledge, and I'm grateful to you, Jamin, and to Jean-Francois for teaching me about collective intelligence and how decisions can be made in a better way rather than entrusting it all to one single person and assuming that that person has the intelligence and the capacity to make decisions. I'm also grateful to Dr. Shelley Ostroff for her work on deconstructing democracy and eco-governance. So I learned a lot from her. I'm also grateful to Mahatma Gandhi for writing the book Hind Swaraj. So in fact, let me get into slideshow mode. Because in Hind Swaraj, he examined the underpinnings of industrial civilization as we know it. And he pointed out how it was literally factory farming human beings. That wasn't the term he used, but that's literally what he was saying. And obviously he was hitting on the truth about what was going on. And he suggested that we need to go back to the way we used to do things, more of an indigenous way of life. The British government at that time, so he wrote this book in 1909, and the British government at that time banned the book. And when the government banned the book, it became an instant bestseller in India. So it was translated into every language in India, and people were bootlegging copies all over the place, and Gandhi became famous. Because until then, nobody knew who he was. He was just a lawyer in South Africa, and he was traveling on a ship between London and South Africa when he wrote this book. Because it was 2 months. It took 2 months to go from London to South Africa during those days. And so he wrote this book, and in that book he compared, all of the processes in industrial civilization and how they're all geared towards destruction and fixing the destruction. So it was constantly about destroying things and then fixing the destruction. So he said even health is about giving people diseases and then fixing the diseases. Legal system is also about taking a conflict and making it worse and then figuring out who's the winner. Whereas, a conflict should really be resolved by someone who's mediating. So he had segments, in the chapters in his book on each aspect of human life and how every aspect should be changed from what it was in the industrial civilization. So in a way, we are actually implementing what he was trying to do at that time. That's what we are trying to do now, right? I mean, everyone has been trying to do this, but I think now is the moment when we are forced to do this. And this, I think, is the greatest transformation in human history, what we are undergoing today. And Robert Swan said the last great exploration on Earth is to survive on Earth. How are we going to survive on Earth? And things may look bleak, and Valerie Kaur in her TED Talk had this great line. She said, the darkness of the tomb is also the darkness of the womb. So it looks like we are, if we continue doing what we're doing, we're going to go extinct, but it's also a process of birth. So we are being called to be born again as a different kind of species. And in the process of birth, there is a process of going through the birth canal, which is the transformation from where we were to where we need to go. And then finally, once you're born, there's a different way of existing. So you have both of these now that we have to think about and figure out what are we going to do, when we get through this birth canal, how to get through the birth canal and how to get out, and what are we going to be when we get out. So I have been talking about the 7 core shifts, and I'm just, and I keep refining this. So it's going from where we are today to where we need to be. It's going from a path towards extinction to a path towards transforming and thriving. And I'm convinced that the only way out is to go from the current system of normalized violence to a system of normalized nonviolence. Okay? Because nonviolence is the only thing that's sustainable, that you can keep doing forever. And we have gone from a prey species to a predator species. Okay? That was the transformation that we did over the last 300,000 years. We went from being a prey for the first 250,000 years of our existence to a predator species in the last 50,000 years. And now we are the top predator species. Now from this, we have to transform to a caretaker species. Yeah? And because that's the only thing that's sustainable. A predator species, if you continue as a predator species, we're not going to be sustainable. It'll end. Okay? And we have been calling ourselves Homo sapiens so far. And Homo sapiens, to me, is a very narcissistic term, because we are going around saying we are the wisest of all the species. We are the wise species compared to all these other species who are dumb, right? That's a very narcissistic perspective of life. And I'm saying the transformation is from that. I used to call it Homo Ahimsa. I'm now going to call it Holo Ahimsa, because Holo is whole, becoming whole again, as opposed to isolating ourselves to being just a primate. Now we have to look at all beings as our relatives, not just primates as our relatives. Okay? All life is a relative. So being whole again. And Ahimsa is nonviolence. So this is a mix of a Latin word and a Sanskrit word. So it's also symbolic of us coming together as a species across the whole world. And in terms of the David analogy that I used in the last talk, it's focusing from focusing on the marble shards, which is the mess that we have made, to focusing on the David that we have created. Because we have really created a homeostasis for planet Earth. We have all the tools and technologies we need to maintain homeostasis for planet Earth, so that the temperature does not ever change, so we can maintain the same climate. And I am saying this is a transformation from a dominant, exploitative murderers of animals and nature, which turns out to be demons, to vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature. So that's demons to vegans. And I think it's important that we use the right language so people can say, yeah, I don't want to be a demon anymore. I want to become a vegan. So the 7 core shifts are the same: the speciesism, colonialism, racism, ableism, patriarchy, to veganism and radical equality, from diseases and divisions for humanity to health and unity for humanity, from destruction and pollution of the planet to remediation and regeneration of the planet, from death and cruelty to animals to love and kindness for animals, from a culture of consumption to a culture of compassion, from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, and from a money-driven economy to a service-driven economy. So the idea is, how do we organize ourselves during the transition from during our passage through the birth canal? So during the transition from where we are to being born fully as a Homo ahimsa species. And how do we organize ourselves when we become Homo ahimsa? And are they both the same? I don't know. So these are the questions that we need to explore. Okay, that is the political side of this transformation. How do we organize ourselves? How do we make decisions? And are there any, and how do we create this transition automatically? Now, I believe that using a currency like Aquarius, playing a game like Aquarius would help us do this transformation, this transition, because it would allow us to make corporations do the work that they need to be doing. Because right now, corporations are basically demons. But by eating just vegan food, we are forcing corporations to start producing vegan products. Okay? So we see that happening. So we are making them change by changing our consumer patterns. So similarly, I think by using the Aquarius game, we can make corporations change in every aspect of their work, so that the transition can happen. And then finally, maybe it'll all be just cooperatives, and not once in a completely Aquarius economy, you really don't need major big corporations like that. I don't know. So to give a picture of what this transition is, so each of the 7 core shifts from speciesism, colonialism, racism, ableism, and patriarchy to veganism and radical equality. So I think this illustration on the left and the right perfectly illustrate what this transformation we are talking about. This is where we are. This is where we are, with highly militarized, factory farmed human beings living in little boxes everywhere, who are being oppressed, who are unhealthy, who have to consume drugs all the time, and we're all being farmed for extracting money and funneling it to the top, because that's the game we are playing today. And then transforming that game and getting to a world in which we can live freely, we can contribute our gifts, and we can have a healthy planet in which to thrive. From diseases and divisions for humanity to health and unity for humanity. I mean, we have a system in which, even as the demand for animal products decreases, our government is basically subsidizing them, buying up the extra meat and storing it in warehouses and propping up the industry, promoting it. And you say, I mean, why would you promote something that causes cancer? So here is someone imagined an ad for McDonald's that would say something like this: if it was the truth, eating processed meat causes cancer. We don't care. Give us your money, right? That's exactly what's going on. And why would we continue doing that when we can be eating really good food, vegan food, and thriving on the planet at the same time, and thriving together as a species, and together with all the other species on the planet. From destruction of the planet, which is what currently causes, it's a source of money creation, to regeneration of the planet. So that we are putting our resources towards remediation and regeneration as opposed to destruction and pollution. From death and cruelty to animals to love and kindness for animals. Okay? That should become normal. So, and this transformation is already happening. This is what the vegan movement is all about, as it demands that this be normal. From a scarcity mindset, because we have a system now where people who grow too much lose out everything and they commit suicide, which is ridiculous that we have a system like that. And then we wonder, why is there so much hunger on the planet? Yeah, you are valuing scarcity. Obviously, you're going to get scarcity when you value scarcity. So we need to value abundance. We need to promote abundance in our system and in the game that we are playing. From a consumer-oriented economy where it's all about consumption, and how much are we consuming? Are we consuming more every month? Because only then will the economy grow. And it's all about consume, consume, consume. And from promoting consumption to promoting compassion. So that's the Aquarius game. The Aquarius game in which we are actually, you're rewarded for being compassionate. So the purpose of the Aquarius game is to get money out of the picture. You shouldn't be, the main objective of the game today is to get money, because money doesn't show up automatically, right? You have to somehow accumulate it and then use it, or you have to keep working for somebody, right? So it's a money-driven economy, and it's the drive for money that causes all the activities in the economy at the moment. And from that, you need to change to a service-driven economy in which people are doing things because they want to do things. This is exactly the kind of work that I was doing when the first job that I got was as a researcher for Bell Labs. And there I was given enough. I mean, that wasn't the best offer I got in terms of money. There are other corporations that were offering way more money than Bell Labs. But I joined Bell Labs because that job, I was having fun. It was about doing whatever you wanted and creating new things for the good of the whole, for the public. And if all of our jobs were like that, I bet you everyone would enjoy it, just like I enjoyed my job at Bell Labs. And each of us have the 3 core gifts that we can give. Helping with shedding the predator role, helping with birthing the caretaker species, and then transforming our narratives and myths. Because we are telling a new story. I mean, literally what we are doing now by telling this new story, the story of the thermostat species, it's as significant as discovering that the Earth is a sphere and not a flat. Okay, it's as significant as that. This is as significant as what Galileo was trying to do, because it's changing our mindset, changing our mind into thinking differently. So there is a lot of work to be done in telling the new myth, the new narratives about who we are as a species and how we are part of this larger intelligence that's helping us transform. So when we go from calling ourselves Homo sapiens, which is a very narcissistic term, to calling ourselves Homo ahimsa, we are actually becoming more humble as a species. We are recognizing that nature is much more powerful than we ever gave credit for. In fact, just take a look at what she's doing. With a single tiny little virus, she's making the entire human economy, she's shaking it, right? One tiny little virus. And 100 million people are on quarantine in China and not going to work at all. So that should give us pause, when we go around pretending to be this powerful, dominant species. That should give us pause to say, hey, we are part of something much, much bigger, and we better start looking at our role from a very humble perspective. So that's the new narrative and the new myths that we need to be telling people. And again, from a transformation perspective, there are, oh, I didn't write it down. The 4 transformative roles we have are as illuminators, where we tell the new stories, as hospice care workers, where we help the old transition to the new. So we get rid of animal agriculture industries and turn that into plant-based industries. That's hospice care workers. Third is as protectors of the new. And finally, as innovators or trailblazers, where we are figuring out processes for the new system, figuring out how are we going to do things in the new world. So birthing the caretaker species, as Buckminster Fuller said, if you want to teach people a new way of thinking, don't bother trying to teach them, because it's going to take a long time to teach them. Okay? Because in our minds, it's very hard for us to change our minds and then change our actions. Instead, if you give them a tool or a game, the use of which will lead to new ways of thinking, they'll automatically change, because we are great at using tools. That's who we are. We are a tool maker, an engineering species. And so the new political organization is going to be about implementing the Vitality Code. So our goal should be to help each one of us become all that we are, so that we can contribute our gifts, receive all that we need, so that we don't lack for anything to give our gifts, and so that we can give all that we can. And the idea is that if each of us is giving more than we are receiving, the planet is going to thrive. In fact, that's the only way the planet thrives. This is how every other species behaves. So we have done our bit about making sure that the planet will never go back to another ice age. And now we have to transform and regenerate the planet and become this caretaker species. And to do that, we have to create systems and processes for implementing this Vitality Code. That's the role of the political organization. And it takes courage to do this. Okay? It takes courage to be an explorer. Can you imagine the first fish that went on land? Right? I mean, had trouble breathing. So to figure out, oh, stick your head out and come back in, stick your head out, come back in. And eventually came out and said, okay, now I have a nose, so I can breathe. It takes courage. And so, and in our species also, every species has these explorers that go out and try new things. And it has conservatives that sit back and say, we know this and we don't want to change. And you need both in any species. Because if you don't have the conservatives, the explorers can go try something stupid and kill themselves off. And everyone is following the explorers all the time, we'll all be dead as a species. So you need both as a species. But now is the time when we need to listen to the explorers more. There should be more. The explorers are going to grow in number, because the explorers have found another way of living, a non-violent way of living that is clearly more sustainable than what we are doing today. It's clearly a better place to go to than where we are now. And that, to me, is the role of America. That was the original role of America. This was where the explorers of our species came. And this is where we always were ready to explore new things. You know, America is where John F. Kennedy said, we choose to go to the moon, and we went to the moon in 7 years. And this inspired me to come to this country. It inspired me to become an engineer. And it inspired me to come to this country because I said, this is where things are happening. This is where I need to be for doing something new. And we need to rekindle that explorer spirit. And that's what this is about. You know, we need to be creating these new processes and new systems for the good of the whole. Okay? And not taking a backseat, not constructing walls, you know, I mean, that's a non-explorer, the anti-explorer approach is to construct walls, isolate yourself, and go into a shell. And we are the ones we've been waiting for. Let's not wait for our leaders, the Pope or the president or senators to allocate resources to help us do this. No, they're not going to do it. They're stuck in the old system. They are stuck in sitting in the womb until it becomes a tomb. They will never change that. Okay, so it's up to the explorers, the grassroots, to say, okay, here is a way out through the birth canal, and this is a way. This is how we need to be organizing ourselves when we get out of this birth canal. So we are the ones we've been waiting for. So the three main transformations in the political side is changing from governance for economic growth to governance for ecological thrivability. The only legitimate purpose of governance is to ensure the health and vitality of the planet and all inhabitants on the planet. Okay? It is not a legitimate purpose of governance to protect the property of one individual. This is not what it's for. We shouldn't be putting our collective efforts for that purpose. Okay? Our collective efforts should be to ensure the thrivability of the planet. And instead of a concentration of power, which is what we have today, we have to have a much more distributed power systems. And instead of a representative democracy, which becomes a tyranny of the majority, it has to be a participatory democracy where everyone feels like, and everyone not only feels like, they know that their voice is being heard. And we have all the tools and technologies we need to do this now. Okay? So here are all the questions we came up with on the political side. And so we have now, on Basecamp, we have created these study groups in which we have listed these questions, and we are saying, okay, how do we answer these questions? So we are now looking at how do we do this? How do we answer all these questions? These are the questions on the transition, and these are the questions on the new model. And I'm sure there are more questions that will come up as we answer these questions. Or maybe from these questions, we can refine them into easier questions that we can answer, and so on. So we have this process of refinement that needs to happen now. And now we are exploring the process options in Basecamp. How do we do this? Do we do a sociocracy type approach in which we come to some kind of a consent-based approach that sociocracy is, which allows people to collaborate at any scale? Or should we use holacracy? Holacracy is more useful in organizations where everyone gets a role to play, and then they can change their roles as time progresses, but everyone has a purpose and a role, and then they go off and implement that role, and then they come and meet again and decide if they're going to change their roles. Or do we do something like Wikipedia to answer these questions? At first, at least in the on Basecamp for Vegan World 2026, because Wikipedia, anyone can go and edit the answers to the questions. And there is a process of refinement that happens. Okay? So maybe it's Wikipedia combined with Quora, because in Quora, there are multiple answers to a given question. And then people rate those answers to see which one bubbles up, right? Now, even there, you can say the answers are like Wikipedia entries, because your answer can be edited by someone else who can update it, who can add to it. So it becomes like a Wikipedia Quora combination. So we're looking at these processes and to see how are we going to organize ourselves, how are we to answer these questions, and how are we going to then organize ourselves to play the new game, and how are we going to then transition from the old game to the new game, and what does it look like when you're playing or just the new game? So anyway, thank you very much. This is just a summary, and I'm sure you have plenty of questions. I have all our work is available on climatehealers.org as open source. So anything you can take from my books or from Climate Healers website and use it in any way you want. So thank you very much. And let's stop sharing.
Beautiful, Silas. Wonderful, amazing. My goodness, man. Brother, you keep getting better and better. And wow, just more and more clear and just right to the heart of it all. So I imagine you're welcoming us all to jump in for a conversation. I imagine
Yes, please.
a lot of people with questions and comments. So if you have a question or comment, feel free to just raise your hand. I'll call on you. I imagine there'll be a queue forming here, but no one's in the queue at the moment. So please, if you got anything to say, just yes, Brett, followed by Melissa. Go ahead, Brett.
Hey there. I caught some of that, so my apologies, Salish. I'll watch the replay. I'm just cooking for me and my wife. Cooking dinner for me and my wife. So first, I just wanted to say hi, and just from listening, thanks for all you do. Obviously, like Jamin said, it's epic work, and I only caught pieces. And I caught the last piece about sociocracy and holacracy, so I would be interested especially to learn more about those pieces you've been looking at. In our project, we've kind of looking at creating a little bit of a hybrid, I might say, or transcending and including those models. I personally don't think holacracy can work for an organic, like type of movement. Sociocracy, I'd like to observe the attempt at it. But I would like to introduce you to my wife at some point to have a conversation about what you've been looking at and experiencing and what we've been looking at and experiencing, and see if you guys want to jam on that sometime. And I can send you some info at some point, but I'll just watch your video first so I have a better understanding of what you are bringing all together. And thanks for everything you do, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we would love that. I think the founder of Sociocracy is going to give us a tutorial on it sometime in March.
Cool.
And then holacracy, there are ongoing tutorials. So I'm planning to take the next one to understand. So we're still in the process of evaluating which way we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, my intelligence is from watching and observing these things and talking to people. My caveat is obviously you should find out for yourself. But my advice is there's no way holacracy is going to work with the type of people and like thing you want to accomplish. It's so much, to me, bent for organizations, like you were saying. And it's such a deep learning curve. And people generally don't, it's really hard to also implement that without starting from that point. So I don't know where you're at with your collective and all, but like if you try to reverse engineer something you're already doing with holacracy, it doesn't seem to work for people. My layman's expertise is I bet you sociocracy will be way more aligned with what you're trying to do, et cetera. But that's just my 2 cents. I wouldn't take it too far.
Sure. Thank you.
All righty. Melissa, yes.
Hi, Silas. So great to hear you again. I always get deeper and deeper layers of that onion of what you're talking about. So thank you for that. I did want to just mention, which I mentioned like a parrot repeating, that along with the explorers, we need the nurturers. And that's really coming from this divine feminine, that we've been in this patriarchal thing of doing, going outside and doing and acting and putting our mark on everything. And in balance to this exploration of new ways, we also have to go inward to find self-nurturing, nurturing the earth, and undoing and being and creative imagining. So it's a slightly different process, as you know.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that because I think we need to start using that in our language. I think explorers and nurturers, poets and, whatever, meditation and because I think we need to start seeding this new way of being that's not always about doing outwardly. Even though there's many things we have to do outwardly, like picking up garbage, of course,
Right.
cooling the planet, etc. I know you know that. So I just wanted to remind us all of that.
Thank you so much, Melissa. You're absolutely right. We have to have that new way of being. I'm going to explore that in the subsequent webinars, especially the ecological one and the spiritual one.
Jackie Solomon and Myra, myself, my daughter Alice, and my friend from Nigeria, Obi, are actually going to, on block parties starting on the 20th, having a hour of talking about the divine feminine.
Awesome.
So if you want any of us to participate with you, I, of course, would be happy to be part of that conversation. And I'm sure they might also love to be part of that. We're going to talk about trauma, healing trauma, not just personal trauma, but trauma of whole nations, ancestors, culture, wars that have happened many, many eons ago that still are in our DNA and in the psyche of the humans, grieving, mourning, prayer and meditation, all these sorts of things. So I'm really excited about that. And if we can connect with you, Sailesh, and anyone else, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. I just want to welcome Jackie, and I want to encourage more, questions, comments, sharing. And I want to say something that we said a couple hours ago during Brett's amazing presentation, where our minds were equally blown in a bit of a different realm, is, feel free to share or ask, even if you don't have, a totally well-formed, whatever to contribute. Just, even if it's the beginning of a question or the beginning of an idea, that's fine. We are a collective intelligence here. So wherever you leave off, someone else in the contra dance will jump in and help out, whether it's Sailesh or Jackie or whoever. So just don't hold back is what I'm suggesting.
I like Brett's.
I think everyone's taking it in.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
I think everyone's just taking it in.
Totally.
It's a big step.
I'm still just captivated by what Brett shares. Every time he speaks, I'm just in awe. Thank you, Brother Brett.
Thank you. I'm just cooking dinner, so I had my camera off in case something weird or unsightly happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to catch up on what you said, Brett. I was busy preparing for this presentation.
Yeah, happy to have a call sometime, and you can check, flip through the video. It's obviously a long 2-hour slot, but you can check it out too.
Sure.
Well, speaking of that, actually, what if we did a vegan chocolate, vegan vanilla soft serve swirl? What if we did a couple hour period where we brought in Sailesh and Brett, and maybe you gentlemen coordinate in advance, and let's do a mashup session where we just got an idea for a beginning of it, and then we just let it unfold with the whole collective intelligence participating. Yeah. Awesome. We've had mashups in the past that I won't reference that didn't necessarily go so well, but this is one that I think will go really, really well. I just got to say. All righty. Ray's got his hand up. Go ahead, Ray.
Hi, this is kind of responding to what Sailesh said and also to what Melissa said about our role, our attitude towards ourselves and our relationship with nature. How do we reconcile that? We need to recognize the Anthropocene. We need to recognize the impact of the human race. And we need to recognize that there's a lot of bad things that we've done.
Right.
Yet at the same time, we've been doing bad things, learning the tools to ultimately be good. So there's a lot of people who are really hard on the human race. You discover the Anthropocene, you go, oh my God, we're so awful, we're so horrible. Look at what we're doing. And people shut down. They just go, okay, I'm just gonna, bathe in my self-loathing, and that's my contribution. Help hate humanity and say, yeah, we're a virus. We should be eradicated from the planet, and then the world would be a better place. How do we find the balance?
Yeah, see, that's the journey I went through, where I realized that when you look at it from the perspective of nature is dominating humans, not the other way around. We are pretending to dominate nature. We are pretending to be the wisest species. We're pretending to be this most powerful species. But all along, we were puppets. So that's the story we are telling, right? All along, we were used to create homeostasis for the planet. So just think about it, okay? We are calling ourselves Homo sapiens, but we were born 300,000 years ago in an environment of abject terror, where we didn't have claws, we couldn't run too fast, we couldn't even climb very well. So we were like sitting ducks, right? Other animals were happily eating us. And so we were forced to develop tools to protect ourselves. So it's, in a way, if you look at it from the perspective of nature and you say nature was using us to get out of this ice age, then I look back and I'm saying, not only do I feel a sense of humility at the awesomeness of nature's plan, I also say we have been used. Okay, so you get some kind of it's really humorous, right? The situation. It's a humorous situation that you're in. All along you thought you were the boss of the planet, and all along you're being used. And now you have to wake up and say, hey, if we don't do this, transform ourselves, and not go to self-loathing, but in the middle path is where you say, we are just like any other species. We belong just like any other species. We just had to fulfill our role. Okay? So we have a role, just like the elephant has a role in the forest, we have a role on the planet. So we have to just recognize our role and do the best job at it as that role. And that role actually is consistent with all of our religious teachings as well. They all say you are a caretaker. Okay? Every religion is saying you are a caretaker. We are a caretaker species. So, and now science is also saying you're a caretaker species, because the story we are telling about the thermostat species is a story based on science. So in that sense, I say it's neither should we be a narcissistic species pretending to be the wisest of them all, and nor should we be a self-loathing species. It's the middle path where we say we are just like any other species, and we are going to do our best to fulfill our role. That is the sustainable path.
Beautiful. Okay, we got a couple of hands up. If I'm not interrupting, Silas, we got James followed by Melissa. Go ahead, James.
Sorry about that. I agree 100% there, Silas. Everything was lovely. Yeah, definitely. I agree what you're saying, so I won't go into it too much. Just in saying like that, your last sentence actually kind of covered my point. Yes, we are a caretaker species, but we have forgotten also that we are a symbiotic species, and that we're not the ones in control, and we're not the ones calling the shots. We're a symbiotic species, and we're destroying the greater majority of that symbiotic relationship. So right. we are not just caretakers, we are destroyers.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, James. Melissa.
Yeah, Ray, I think the way back is through love and connection. I think we got separated from our connection to what we are, whether we're conscious of it or not. We're always connected to life, to nature. We come from nature. We call it human nature, and we're connected to the environment and to the universe and to creation. And I see that all of this was planned. This isn't a coincidence that this is happening. It's part of the evolution of the universe and of this planet, this realm. So I don't think we need to self-loathe. We need to love ourselves better. And by loving ourselves better and reconnecting with source energy, some call it spirit, reconnecting with nature, and reconnecting with what we love about ourselves and about the world around us. And we come back into that realm of the magic of this realm we live in, and understanding that it's a paradise. It is also a scary place, like Silas was mentioning, that, you know, I sometimes feel like surviving here is like walking on a tightrope. You don't know if you're going to fall off or you're going to stay on it. And there's a kind of wicked beauty in that too. We're all survivors and we're all heroes of this journey. And but all the better for really practicing gratitude and appreciation for every moment we take breath. And I think if we come back into that place also of gratitude, then we can reconnect. We can love the world again and life again. So I think it's really about disconnection, that we got separated from source. We forgot about the mystery of life. We got so bogged down in science, logos, rational thinking, materialism. We forgot where we're really coming from and who we really are. And the way forward for me is us becoming conscious of that. And that would be the courageous explorer, I think, is actually going into that realm of the unknown and really enjoying the exploration of that, and our connection with all the creatures of the world, all of life. So we stop hurting everything, which comes from fear. So I say LOVE, love, big time. Thank you.
All righty. Well, no one's in the queue at the moment, so I'll make a comment that I really love the way you framed it, Silas, both visually and logically, about how we are factory farmed humans. That really hit home for me. And so I kind of think of, you know, centuries past here in the Americas when we had institutionalized slavery, and the slaves would get together when they could, whether it's at night in their sleeping quarters or whatever, or on the slave ship, and they would plan and they would discuss and they would kind of create this safe space for liberation. Now, they wouldn't do it, you know, when they're out in front of, you know, whoever during the day or whatever, when they can be seen and persecuted. And likewise, I feel like what we're doing here is we're creating a safe space. We are these enslaved factory farmed humans, but we're creating a safe space in the cloud, in this virtual realm, where you don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to pay money to come here. And we're liberated from a lot of the physical realm. And it's almost like, you know, you could imagine all of us just closing our eyes in our beds and connecting in this dream world, right? So anyway, I just want to really give kudos to all of us for participating in this new super medium, right, of connection. And we are co-creating a much safer, better world here, starting in the imaginal, right? We are the imaginal cells. Ray posted about the, you know, we're, you know, caterpillar to butterfly transition. Right. It only takes a few imaginal cells to play that role of imagining and then orchestrating the transformation. We are it. And back to you, Silas.
Yeah, it is telling that new, transforming our story and then transforming our game, so that we are making sure that everyone gets to the imaginal cell stage and then goes from imaginal cell to the organs of the butterfly. You know, so, and we all find our place in the butterfly.
Beautiful. No, since no one has their hands raised, I'll just mention, I really, oh, I'm sorry, did someone have their hand raised?
Brett just jumped in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to relate to what Melissa was sharing. I was just watching this interview, which for me was highly interesting and fantastic. This guy, Donald Hoffman, talking about, oh, how would I frame it? I don't know. I'll get back to that. I'll drop it in the thing. But he was just bringing up this point from evolutionary psychologists that they're looking into. Not that I buy that lock, stock, and barrel, but he was talking about some of their hypotheses about how logic and reason were actually mechanisms for persuading the rest of the tribe. So they're not they're really actually not highly evolved, logic and reason. They think they were, so it's like, I need logic and reason to prove to you why we should hunt that buffalo and not that buffalo. I need to use logic and reason to explain why I should be in charge and not you should be in charge. So I'm not doing great justice to that, but I just thought the actual topic was interesting in and of itself, because I think we've completely overblown logic and reason, obviously in the Newtonian patriarchal paradigm, as like the height of human development, logic and reason. So I'll drop the link in here because the interview is super interesting. I'm sure a lot of you would probably find the premise interesting, and the topic. And also in the Gene Keys, for the Gene Keys fan, I think logic is actually a shadow. I don't think, no, Dharmendra's not here anymore, but I think logic is actually a shadow in the Gene Keys work too. But anyway, yeah, I relate to that, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
We've really got to stop giving so much credence to that without being fair to the rest of the human experience.
I just want to thank you, Brett. I just wanted to add also, and I'll try and find the link and share it in the chat box. Rudolf Steiner, who was a great esoteric and started the Waldorf school system, writes a lot about supernatural beings, or light, beings that are overseeing what happens here in this realm. And he talks a lot about, at this time, the Ahrimanic being is influencing all of us. And that comes through technology, again, science, this logical thinking. And he says that humanity needs to prepare itself now for that arrival of Ahriman, and balance it with Christ consciousness, which is compassion and love. So I think that'd be really interesting for you guys to have a look at, because I personally can see it at play, even through some of us. We might not be conscious of it, but if we can. And so when Brett, you were talking earlier, Silas, what I love is that there is still this logic possibly coming through, or using technology, but it seems that you're balancing it with compassion and love. And so it's this balancing of these opposite poles of positive, negative, light, dark, which is going to create balance, and is I think, a healthy way to move forward.
Yeah, I arrived at it through a synthesis, really, because I had really let my logic take over, my engineering mind take over initially, and I had gotten to the point where I thought everything my ancestors taught me were not correct, because they were telling me that you're part of something much bigger, and there's an intelligence above you, that's God is always in charge. I didn't buy that, right, at first. And then once my granddaughter was born, she made me look at it, and she said, she made me basically question everything and go back and look at what I've learned from my ancestors and say, is it possible that they're also correct? So is there a synthesis between their worldview and the scientific worldview? And that's what led me to look at the thermostat species hypothesis. Because that hypothesis basically says nature has always been in charge. God has always been in charge. Whatever you want to call that, this larger force, bigger than us. And so this is why, even now I don't ask questions like, are we on schedule? Is this going to happen at the right time? I just say, I am not in charge. I'm just going to keep doing what I think is the right thing to do and let it fall where it may, right? So you go to it now with surrender. So not with the ego, it's with surrender, and say, I'm just an instrument, a tool that can be used for the good, the whole.
I would change that word to a gift, Sailesh. You are a gift. We are all gifts, and we are seated with that from wherever we have come from. And our souls have come here to have this incredible experience. And if we can consciously unfold our gifts and gift them to ourselves as well as out into the world, then we're on purpose. And that's when it gets exciting. And I also just want to mention that when you become conscious of the way things are working, the universe gives us clues. How many of you have had clues? Like last week, Michael Gaia was talking about the golden beetle, and my daughter sends me a photograph of her and Enzo in Mexico, and there's sitting on her shoe a golden beetle. We're talking about synchronicity, and the golden beetle represents synchronicity in the myth, and so the universe is always communicating, giving us clues and things that say, yes, you're on the right path, or no, don't go that way, or here's something to use. And I think it gets really exciting when you can tune into that and start having that collaboration with not just other human beings, but with the world around us.
Thank you for that, Melissa. I'll start using the word gift from now on, as opposed to a tool.
All right, I don't see anyone with their hand up at the moment. I want to welcome Nathan, Natasha, Rigo, everyone who's been joining. Welcome, everyone. Come one, come all, come and go as you please. And Sailesh, I just want to point out, I really love how you just made a connection for me that I hadn't quite made before, which is we start with a new story, co-creating a new story. Based on that new story, we co-create a new game, and we start playing. And then through playing the game, we transform and we transform the world. See, look at Miles with all his beautiful signs. Love you, Miles, and all that you're doing out there. There he is in downtown Calgary on Fridays for Future, sharing with all the youth and everyone there. Beautiful. You got a bunch of people on the street there who are demanding transformation, and it's got to happen just like this, and it's got to happen now, and we got to make these structural changes now, right? But what Sailesh is helping me realize is, those of us who get into that mode, and all compassion and love for those who do want to go straight for the change, we're kind of missing a couple of steps. Story, game, then transformation. Anyway, just wanted to share that insight, and welcome Sarah. Welcome Sarah and everyone. Back to you, Sailesh.
No, that's beautiful, Jamin. I mean, that's the realization I had, when you look for an explanation for what's happening that does not require blaming anybody. It's a very non-judgmental way of looking at things. Then you realize they were playing a game. They're playing a role in a game. Everyone is playing roles in this larger game, based on the old story, the story that humans are Homo sapiens, right? The wisest of all species. So when you realize, no, you've been used all along, and you have to look back with humility at what has happened. Then you say, well, yeah, we can now play a different game.
Well, we can play a different game, but it's like creating a new story where, instead of, we're just victims now and this, whatever. I love how you take the long view, Sailesh, and with the thermostat species, et cetera, because you're creating a really broad story that spans past and future, and you are here. And it gives us a way to integrate the past and integrate the future that we so deeply desire into one continuous story. Well, you happen to be on chapter 7, but here's the whole book, right? So don't get too fixated on where you are now. Let's look at the whole story. Let's rewrite the story, and out of that derive a new game, which will transform everything and co-create the future. And Brett, I invite you, if you're not in between bites of dinner or whatever, to share what you have to say about that, because you've got a really tight way of conveying what I was kind of clumsily sharing there. But anyway, we're in open sharing mode for those who have just joined. Silas presented a beautiful presentation, and now we're doing questions and just open discussion. Silas is on point, but feel free to raise your hand.
Hello.
Yes, Miles, jump in, Miles.
Hello, guys. Great presentation as usual, Dr. Rao. I've got your white paper here. Hope to talk to people. One of the things I brought down with me, I don't know what's going on. I have a Bluetooth speaker. I was hoping to be able to broadcast Dr. Rao speaking, but I don't know. Somehow maybe there's a technical issue. My Bluetooth connection to the speaker is working because I can play my music through the Bluetooth, but for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on with Zoom. Your voices will not broadcast. I don't know if they have some sort of blockage there. But anyway, there is a Dr. David. Yeah, so I've got to figure that out. There's a Dr. Swan over there, and I'm hoping I might get his attention, bring him over here. He's a former party. He's a medical doctor, and he's one of the leading climate activists in this city. So I will keep holding up the white paper and the sign, and if I can get Dr. Swan over here, we'll chat with him. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Miles. All right. Well, feel free to raise your hand if you have a question or comment. And right now, there's nobody in the queue. Yes, Ray. Go for it, Ray.
Sailesh, I was wondering about, you talked about politics in your presentation. How does the politics that everybody wants to talk about, we're in an election year, obviously we want people to vote and vote in overwhelming numbers, yet we don't want our vote to be where our power, is expressed, and then we wait another 4 years until we express our power again. So, but politics is something that we, as we're exploring our solutions in the Vegan World 2026, how much does what our current system, our current politics, how much does that have to do with what we should be doing? And how much of it is stepping aside from politics and building something new to be revealed later? And how public is what we're doing? And how much does it affect things like elections?
Yeah, so this is why, I refer to Shelley, Dr. Ostrov's work on deconstructing democracy, because she looks at how democracy has been massaged and turned into a vehicle for the concentrations of power that are already here, and to maintain that power. So she goes into details as to how it has been usurped for that purpose. And so from reading that, I realized that we give so much importance to that one vote that we cast once every 4 years, once every 5 years, but we don't give importance to the other votes we keep doing on a daily basis. So the votes on how we spend our money, that's a vote. Every dollar you spend is a vote. Whether you choose to vote or not, that's also a vote. Whether you choose to spend or not, that's a vote. So I realized you have a lot more power there than the power you supposedly have by voting in one person once every 4 or 5 years, right? And but the discourse, the mainstream discourse, is that you don't have power here, for your consumer choice. You don't really have power. We are going to manipulate you and make you consume exactly what we want. Okay, but you have all the power is over there when you vote once every 4 years, and you have to do that then, right? So that's the mainstream discourse. That's the mainstream story that we are being told, which is false. So Gandhi realized that 100 years ago. He realized that we have power in what we choose to buy. So he convinced the people of India to buy certain types of clothes and therefore shake the mighty British Empire, right? In the same way, we can now, by choosing what we eat, choosing what we buy, we can shake the mighty corporate empire. Even then, it was the corporate empire, it wasn't the British Empire, it was the corporate empire anyway. So even now, we can shake the mighty corporate empire, not only shake it, but make the corporate empire do what we want it to do. Do things that are for the good of the planet. So change, because these entities are so powerful now, and they have been institutionalized. The power has been institutionalized in the current system. We need to make them help us get out of this. Yeah, and so that is the idea behind the game of Aquarius, and that's the idea behind even promoting the vegan movement, because it is shaking the industry. And, you see the dairy industry dying out in front of our eyes, right? And pleading for more and more subsidies. So we are making a difference. So when we realize we're making a difference, I'm saying, that's the power that you weren't aware of before. This is exactly what Gandhi was trying to do in India. Is showing the people of India that they had so much power. They felt powerless, but they had so much power all along. I don't know. It's a long answer to your question.
Well, it's a great answer. It just occurs to me that there's a lot of pushback in the environmental movement that personal choice doesn't matter. You carrying a sign, getting out to the rally, showing up in numbers, and if you can't do that, support your favorite NGO and keep their coffers full, keep them doing the good fight, and the NGOs will win the war for us rather than individuals. Right. And there's very strong pushback on some solutions not being like, would we include veganism in the same solutions as changing our light bulbs, right? There's an argument that there's false justifications that make me say I'm an environmentalist. I'm doing my recycling really, really well, so I'm doing my part. It's not, half woke solutions that aren't really looking at the full picture. I'm using paper drinking straws or saying no straws, thank you, when you order a drink. So is there false justifications, and is there some, or is it all just a rehearsal that we're saying that our every little thing that we do matters? Because it leads to the next thing. As long as it doesn't stop on the one thing, drinking straws isn't going to do it.
Yeah, every little thing we do matters, right? So, when we are told a story in which they say that doesn't matter, what matters is this, they're trying to take the power away from us. Okay, so because that's what the NGOs are being funded by corporations too. So the corporations don't want you to think you have power; they want you to buy their products. That's all they want you to do, right? So. It's important for them that you don't realize you have that power. And you become a mindless consumer.
I've heard it said that taking control of voting with your dollars is letting the government off the hook. You're solving the problem. Individuals are solving the problem. The government can do whatever they want. I've heard that argument.
Well, I know. It's exactly what Gandhi went through, right? Gandhi also did. The people also told him that. And he said, no, let's do this and that. If you want to do both, go for it. Okay, if you want to go fight for the government, fight the government, go on protests, go for it too. But don't ever lose sight of the fact that with every dollar you spend, you are voting for the world you wish to see.
But he saw a very specific value in the khadi movement, in the clothes, and in the salt marches. So those are very two specific commodities, as opposed to change your eating utensils, or
Right.
that there was very deep meaning in particular movements.
Right. Yeah, he saw so much value in the clothing because at that time the textile industry was the largest industry in England. So and the textile industry was taking cotton from India, turning it into textiles and sending it back to India and selling it there. So by convincing the people of India to just take their cotton, turn that into their own clothes and wear it themselves, he completely circumvented this loop, and he bankrupted the textile industry. And so he was focusing on that because it was the largest industry in England. We are focusing on the food because it is the largest industry in the world today. Okay, it is every government has been usurped by the food industry, by the animal agriculture industry. Okay, they're in their pockets. So it is the largest industry. This is why I say, the vegan movement is the exact equivalent of the khadi movement. Vegan movement in the 21st century is the exact equivalent of the khadi movement from the 20th century. And it's now worldwide as opposed to just in India. We have to do this worldwide. And when we do this worldwide, we're going to free ourselves, just like Gandhi freed India from British rule. We're going to free ourselves from corporate rule. And then we are going to create this new system. So, this whole process of birthing a free human species is also about birthing a free earth, a free animals. It's freeing all of us together. Yeah.
Just one last comment, Jamin. I wonder if you could get David Wallace Wells onto our out to our block party, because I remembered that was him. That was his quote that he said that personal choice, going vegan, is letting the government off the hook.
Why do you have to let government off the hook? You can keep them on the hook too, right? And go vegan. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time. So Gandhi was not just wearing different clothes. He was actually marching. He was going out there and demanding that the British leave India. So he was doing a lot of things in addition to changing his clothes. Yeah. So
David Wallace Wells had a lot of influence when he published The Uninhabitable Earth. So I think that's a great, a debate front that we could bring those two ideas together and work them out. Because obviously, it's not a matter of choosing one or the other. It's you have to express yourself wherever you can.
Right. But Gandhi kept his priorities right. He said the khadi movement was number one in his priorities. He wanted people to change their clothes first, and then show up for protests. So in a way, it's like saying the Fridays for the Future, go vegan first and then show up for Fridays for the Future.
Beautiful. All right. James has his hand up. I want to welcome Elle, who just joined. Go ahead, James.
No, just keep it short. I just want to agree with Silas, and Brett as well now as well, but I want to agree with Silas. Gandhi had he had more than just one way of dealing with the establishment, and he was doing more than just one thing than changing the clothes and the marching. But you're right, Silas. He had his priority, which was whatever you do with the dollar, whatever you buy with the dollar, that's a vote for the establishment. So you have to think. But that was his priority, and likewise, Jamin and the rest of us are here as well. We have one priority as well, as Jamin was explaining with the SRM last week, but we also have many other things as well that need to be going on in the background. But there is always a priority, as with Gandhi, same here.
Beautiful, beautiful. We're just in open sharing now, so if you have a comment or question, just feel free to raise your hand. I don't know if Brett's still there, but if you are, just give me a sign. Let me know you're here. And I wanted to comment that...
rock and roll.
Oh, you're here. Okay, great. Thank you. You know, we were talking earlier about this sort of like almost you could look at it simplistically as a three-phase transition. First story, then a new game, and then the game transforms. I'm starting to look at it as a spiral in a sense. Mm-hmm. So we might start with a relatively simple story that leads to a simple game, which leads to a more fleshed out story, which leads to a more fleshed out game.
I love spirals.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I wanted to pass you the baton in a second. But if you think about the big story and the big game, right? Imagine the complete story, just as a hypothetical construct, a complete story that like goes into detail so that every month from now into, you know, the next 100 years, we know exactly what to do as a group, as an individual, as a family, as a neighborhood, as a nation. And that will then lead to generate the big game. See, for example, what we're doing right here, we're playing a very simple game. We're all getting together on video conference and we're sharing. Out of this game is emerging a story. But this game in turn emerged from a simpler kind of proto story of, hey, if we get together, we can change the world. Well, now that we're getting together, we're creating a bigger story, which is leading to bigger games like the Infinite World game. So anyway, Brett, just wanted to bat you in if you've got anything to add to that, and if not, no worries. No pressure.
It sounds like he had to run for a second.
Oh yeah, okay, gotcha. Didn't catch that. All right, well, if anyone wants to jump in, feel free. Yeah, go ahead, Ed. Go for it, Ed.
Excuse me. I've been thinking about a game kind of Where is Waldo to change the way we teach kids in school that sharing is cheating. And often don't ask in science, like I was trained in engineering, we ask, what's the problem? What's the solution? We don't ask who can help and may already have the solution. And I've been trying to think through ways in which we can particularly get younger kids involved by having questions that we look for answers for and have them go around and talk to adults that they know. And in that process, learn more about other people and science and things, and find somebody who may have an answer to a question. I have no more to it than that at the moment, but I'll put that on the table in case it stirs some interesting thoughts with others.
Beautiful. It totally stirs thoughts with me about collective intelligence, because that's kind of the big idea, is anyone can put forward a question and then the appropriate group of people can swarm around that, generate the answer, and then the question and the answer remain in the database for all time. And of course, here we're grappling with the really big question, as Silas phrased, how do we not go extinct?
Yeah, I have to tell you, with my granddaughter, she and her generation has literally been teaching me. Every year I learn something new. Every day I learn something new from them. And I've given several examples of this, where she pointed out that even our epics are full of violence, and we have to rewrite our epics. We have to rewrite all our fairy tales. They're full of violence. Because any fairy tale I read to her, she'll say, stop it. Why did that happen to that animal? So I think we need to create like a whole narratives and mythologies part of the base camp, where we put all these stories out there and modify them, so that they all become nonviolent. It's a really big job that we need to do, because that's how we indoctrinate our children into violence in the current system.
Let me jump back in for a second.
Yeah, and I'll say hello too once I get a chance.
I'm wondering about the possibility of using a wiki as a place to gather the questions and the answers, so that all of this gets captured and recorded. So I've got a start wiki up at the moment that's just kind of a starting sandbox, and hope to get one that will be structured a little bit better subsequently. But I think that might be a process that can work. Gather the questions there, gather answers there, and build that knowledge base over time, a different kind of Wikipedia.
Right. That's a great idea. In fact, that's one of the discussions we're going to have on Tuesday about using Wikipedia and Quora, something like Wikipedia and Quora together. So there are multiple answers to a question, and then you can refine, whichever one you want to refine, you refine it. And then one answer stands out, or two answers stand out, whatever. People have an idea of how to put it together.
I also am learning from my granddaughter, and she's drawing the characters for me for this game because she's a talented young artist and she draws characters like game characters. And I think these might be some of the ways in which we can get kids involved by having them sort of select interesting characters that are their personas or avatars in these games. So at the moment, I'm learning from her the same way you are from your granddaughter.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, Miles has his hand up, and followed by Melissa. Go ahead, Miles.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. So I have some guests here who are with Fridays for Future Calgary Climate Strike, and maybe what they could do is just say hello. I'm going to pass the microphone around. My Bluetooth speaker's not working, so, but anyway, just say hello to everybody. Okay. Because you probably don't want to put your earbud in.
What's up, guys? Yo, yo, yo!
Yes.
They're both in high school. I'm on a gap year right now.
Good.
Yeah.
So you're gonna come join the Radish block party when you get a chance?
Yeah, I think Radish?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Radish.org. And there's Raymond. He's in Nolan, down in Washington State.
Oh, sick. Hello, fellows.
They're behind this Radish.org initiative, which is all about getting people talking 24 hours a day. So you start at 7 in the morning our time, and goes Fridays, and goes to 7 in the morning every Saturday. So you can.
So every Friday we'll be here.
But also, like, when you go home this evening, come on by.
Yeah.
If you go to radish.org, you'll follow the links to the block party Zoom link. So just take a picture of it, and if you're all okay, we'll just you're just on your lunch from school.
Yeah, I know. I'm skipping 2 periods today.
You're skipping 2 periods. She's skipping 1 period. So this is dedication, people.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's you can get on board with this, and you can tell us about how it's going and what you guys are planning on doing.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks for dropping by. You can keep that. I'm giving them a copy of Dr. Rao's climate change white paper, so they're going to go study that. So
thank you.
There you go. Thank you, guys.
Beautiful, Miles. Goodness, wonderful. Thank you so much. Woo! Miles, go Miles. Awesome. Loving it. Everyone here is loving it, Miles. All right, beautiful. And Melissa is up next. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to come back to what Silas was saying about fairy tales and rewriting fairy tales. For 3 years, I worked as an artist in residence at a preschool, Waldorf-inspired preschool, and the idea came to me to I started using puppets and telling stories to the children because they love stories, and I took old fairy tales that I had grown up with and stories and created a whole new world. So there was Falada the dragon, there are all these different characters. And instead of, you know, fearful dragons burning people to a crisp, the dragon was a peace bringer. And so I really created this story with the children, which I asked them to collaborate with me. So it was a co-creative interactive story where we would create these characters and this whole new world together, which is about planting a garden, rebuilding the earth, taking care of one another. The dragon created a nest for all the lost children, you know, Wolf Mama and her babies. And it was so fantastic. The children got it right away, and they couldn't wait every day for a new chapter for us to co-create together. So
Awesome.
I love this idea, and I think the more of that we do, the better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Ray says we want a Zoom puppet show with you.
Yeah, and one of the things I did, because I carved canoes with a Haida for 14 years, I learned some of the Haida language and songs. So I taught the children Haida language and songs, and there was a snail puppet, and he would work with them on language. So he would come out of his little shell, and he would say to the children, "Good morning, children. I understand you know how to speak Haida. Could you teach me how to say butterfly in Haida?" And the children would say, "Dee, dak, do." And the snail would come out, and he would say, "Dee, dak, diddly do." You know, he would play with the words, and they would just roar with laughter, and they would say, "No, silly, it's dee, dak, do." So it's a really effective teaching tool. And
awesome.
Ray says, "I can see your lips moving." Not so convincing. Wow, look at Ray's cat. He's grooving.
He's bigger than Lake Ontario.
That's true. It's actually a lot of fun to make up stories. I mean, take stories like Brother Grimm's stories, which are full of violence, and turn them into stories that are non-violent. There's a lot of fun actually doing it. So I was going through them one by one, you know, making versions of it for Kimaya that was non-violent.
It reminds me of the Sesame Street bits where they try to make sense. They try to change Yankee Doodle so it makes sense because the lyrics are incomprehensible to kids. I wanted to mention that there's in Vegan World 2026 a team called Mythology and Narrative.
Yeah.
Narrative and Mythology, I think it is. We haven't got it started yet, but the idea of teams is that rather than the projects, they're focusing on a particular skill set of the people that are participating in the team, and they can bring those values to any project that they belong to. So storytelling is something that's really important, especially when we're dealing with a lot of science, when we're dealing with facts and figures and charts, and sometimes people aren't getting it, and sometimes there's so much story within a chart itself that having storytellers in each one of our groups is going to be so important, because people don't react to science, they don't react to charts, they react to story. They have to have an emotional reaction to the data before the data becomes relevant at all. So I know Melissa was interested in that being part of that. We have to get it up off the ground because there's stories to tell.
Yeah, let's do it, Ray. And I just wanted to come back actually to your comment about I can see your lips moving. The beautiful thing about children as opposed to adults is that they can transcend that and go into the realm of the imagination so vividly that it doesn't matter if your lips are moving or not. They are just in the story. And I think if we can ourselves suspend our disbelief and become these children that are in us, actually our inner child again, and go into that realm of the magical kingdom where we can really create this new world, then that's going to be powerful. You know, it's like we have to give up that adult thing that says, oh, I can see your lips moving. That's not really a snail. It's your hand. You know?
My mom just told me the story of there's a Canadian version of Mr. Rogers, and he has two puppets, a dog and a boy. And I told her when I was a child that I liked Casey better than Finnegan because he's a real boy. I didn't realize this puppet, which was made of wood, his lips didn't move or anything. But I was still convinced he was real. But I knew that the dog was obviously a sock puppet. So we do have that pure imagination, the ability to suspend disbelief. And we have a, Vegan World 2026 intimidates a lot of people. That idea that we're going to change the whole world to nonviolent systems just seems way too big to dream. But we need to have that childlike wonder and be able to allow it to happen.
Yeah.
I
mean,
even oh, sorry, Silas.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I'm just wondering, even if we stop saying some people think it's too big for us to have this dream, like, aren't we just perpetuating that energy field? Like, I think we should do this positive affirmative thing, even if at the moment it doesn't look like, right? It's not apparent yet, because it is really just on the horizon.
Right.
And I want to start practicing that personally. Like, I already see it, therefore it already is. So I'm going to speak that way.
Right. Yeah, Henry Ford had said that. He said, if you think you can or you think you cannot, you're usually right. So when we think we can do it, we work for it. We know it can be done. So there you go.
I want to give a shout out to Miles out there in the street. That's awesome, man. Rock and roll. You're awesome.
Thank you.
I was able to give Dr. Swan a copy of the Climate Healers report. I wonder if Dr. Vipond will come over here and talk with me. He's actually the leader of the Climate Hub. Hello, Dr. Vipond. Very good. My name's Miles. We're on Facebook together. So do you mind being on this 24-hour block party? It's broadcasting around the world. So everybody, here's Dr. Joe Vipond, emergency physician in Calgary here. And he is also the chair or co-chair of the Calgary Climate Hub. It's all true. So right now, unfortunately, my Bluetooth speaker doesn't work, Dr. Vipond. So
I can pop this in my other
that
ear.
one actually doesn't work. But if you're not, I've got another. If you're okay, let's just unplug it up. So maybe we'll be able to hear it. Can you? Oh, here you go. You got a microphone in that thing? So if you could tell everybody.
That in your ear, the bottom one, the bottom one.
Okay.
Hi, world.
Hi.
Can you hear us? Yes, okay. So let me introduce you to a few people. This is Dr. Silas Rao, and I'll give you a copy of his white paper. Dr. Rao is a Stanford-educated systems engineer, and he's done an analysis. He worked with, for a while with Al Gore. He's done an analysis that validates the same work or similar work done by Goodyear and Amlung, who are also climate scientists. And what they've established is that industrial animal agriculture, beef, pork, dairy, is actually a larger, by far, contributor to our situation because of the deforestation that it's responsible for. So that's not to say that we, coal, oil, and gas don't need to be attended to. It's just that unless we correctly analyze, as Dr. Rao has done, the impact that industrial animal agriculture has had on deforestation, we're not actually going to address the leading cause. Another gentleman here is Jamin Shively, and he's formerly 6 years with Microsoft. He worked with Bill Gates. And Jamin is the founder of the radish.org, and he's the creator of this with Nolan there. They're down in Whidbey Island, Washington State.
I've been there. It's a nice island.
Nice island, yes, indeed. I haven't been there myself, but Jamin would be pleased to visit with you if you get down there again. And Jamin is working on the concept of creating radical collective intelligence. And this is an example. This is number 4 of this 24-hour block party. Starts 7 a.m. our time, Friday mornings, goes right through for 24 hours to Saturday morning. And he's wanting to get channels going of everybody talking collectively, sharing ideas to create the necessary movement and momentum to change the paradigm that we're living in. So that's enough about me. Do you want to say hi to the people, Dr. Vipond?
No, I got them up for the food.
Yeah,
I'm trying to scarf down some food because I'm actually an active emerge doc, and I work at 2 o'clock today. I'm here with my daughter Sadie, who wanted to strike today, and I'm supporting it. But I got to eat before I get on my bike and bike to work at starting in about 20 minutes. So I've got a bunch of different hats. Aside from being on the Calgary Climate Hub, I'm also I do a bunch of social media, and then I'm the president-elect of the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, and I'm a strong believer that the messaging on this has been. We haven't succeeded too well to this point because we've talked more about polar bears dying and less about humans feeling the health impacts. And so I think physicians have a really important role to play when it comes to talking to citizens about why we need to care about this. It's harder to ignore it when it's yourself and your family that are at risk. So yeah, I guess that's
and I'm going to give you a copy of Dr. Rao's white paper here, okay. And he's really put together a great white paper detailing the analysis that needs to be incorporated, the deforestation. We have to restore the forests. Going back, 1,000 years, we've been destroying forests, and that's where the IPCC is missing the mark. You're not calculating into the equation the destruction of the forests. And also just radiation management. Jamin Shively, as I mentioned, has had Dr. Ye Tao of Harvard. Dr. Tao is a leading scientist and engineer at the Land Institute. Land as in the Polaroid camera inventor. And the concept there is we have to start deploying reflective surfaces mirrors. They can be made very inexpensively. Unless we get on top of reflecting some of the incoming solar radiation back with the loss of the Arctic ice caps, we're going to see very dramatic increases in temperature. And in fact, with the downturn in the world economy with the coronavirus, we will probably see a measurable increase in solar radiation forcing of our global average temperature.
Because of the black soot that's going to be not.
Yeah, and in fact, Jamin had Dr. Ye Tao and Dr. Guy McPherson. I know Dr. McPherson's rather controversial, but Dr. McPherson also believes that this solar radiation management is critical. It's one thing that gives him hope in his otherwise gloomy predictions. So you can visit the radish.org website and Radish YouTube channel, and you can review these recordings.
I'm going to take some time and spend some time with my daughter, who I'm here to be with. So thanks for getting me engaged on the
session. I'm going to give you back to your earbud. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you, Miles. Thank you again so much. L has his hand up, and I also wanted to just mention, since you mentioned Dr. Tao, he will be with us in about 17 minutes.
Oh, wow.
At top of the hour for about half an hour at the beginning of our next 2-hour segment into solar radiation management. And since we're taking a little pause from the big conversation here, Jeff has a request, which is he'd like, if it's a good time for you, Jeff wants to give us, maybe screen share, Jeff, and give us a little virtual tour. Okay. And
checking audio. Everybody hear me okay? Or can you hear me okay? Yes. As long as the host can hear me, everybody should be able to hear me fine. Hi, everyone. Honored to be here. Love what I'm listening to. Love even more the way this all feels. Ultimately, if it doesn't feel right, I walk away from it. And this is feeling just absolutely amazing. So I've been with you guys the whole time, but I got a lot of family stuff going on. So screen share is, where's screen share? Help me out here. I don't use Zoom too much. I'm a Jitsi fan.
you know, or I think if you can just use your camera, and then everyone just go to speaker view, click on gallery view and turn it into speaker view, and then you can see full screen there. Jeff is in, is it Rosarito, Mexico?
Rosarito, Mexico. Sí, señor. Yes. So this is inside the second eating area, a little aquaponic system set up here, upper deck to a lower aquaponic system set up down here. Gravity fed, works, the whole system works just on one pump, solar. And that's the view. You got the ocean out there. So I'll take you through a quick walkthrough. This is, at the moment, Living Hope, excuse me, headquarters until he relocates to another location, but this will be a secondary location. This is where I'm at most of the time. Got the massage table out, as always. Entertainment center here. This is headquarters where I have the main server that we use or house our own content off of any other servers. I'm just running to like an 8 terabyte hard drive at the moment. I've got a bigger one I'm getting ready to use as a third. I've got a lot of redundancies here. And this would be the, at the moment, what I'm calling Quantify. You may have heard speak of this. What's wrong with the light? There we go. That's the network here where I'm running it off of Izzy's cable, which is not very fast, but decent. And I'm speeding it up quite a bit more by using this very disruptive technology called Ubiquity. Folks may know of it. And the reason I'm showing you all this stuff is because it's pertinent to what we're doing. We all need better communication. We all need a system that we can communicate with each other, especially in remote locations, like in the middle of the jungle somewhere out in the back or the desert or wherever, where there's just no power, there's nothing to communicate with, and cell phones obviously aren't working. So this disruptive point-to-point technology actually is supposed to be point-to-point, but I'm shooting it, as you can see, through a window, then it goes through another window, then it goes through, bounces off a brick wall, and then goes downstairs. Where I'll take you all right now to see Lawrence, Command Central, where the other antenna picks it up right here through the window and bars. And we still get a rock and roll full bar signal, and he's able to stream and do just all the wonderful stuff he's doing at the moment through this Quantify technology. And it's radio waves, not microwaves. So not killing the birds and the bees, not causing tumors in our brains. I mean, we actually have pictures of birds on our antennas and bees flying around them just fine and finding their way back to the hive. And that's what's causing a lot of the bee problem besides Monster Hunto. Checking audio, because I'm going indoors right now. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, just
thumbs
fine.
up.
Just fine.
Okay. So this is the Mad Lab at the moment. I'm just showing you some of my stuff I'm working on. This is the IntelliTree taken down at the moment. It's all in pieces all over the floor, but and the rest of it over here and over here and over here. The IntelliTree we can talk about later, but it's a standalone technology that's going to just revolutionize everything we do, from how we collect water, how we communicate, how we provide power, clean power, clean energy, clean power, clean communications, and obviously clean water, because we're pulling it right out of the air. With a technology that looks like a beautiful palm tree or a redwood or pine tree or whatever you want to make it look like. Blends right in with nature. Say hi. There's Dawn. She's passing through.
Who are you having me? You're on.
I'm talking at the moment, yes. So anyways, this is the water section of what we're doing here. Is some pretty incredible technology, from Palladian to that down there is Jack Derby out of Tucson, Arizona. That is the crystal ray resonator technology, basically a Saint Germain form of technology for anchoring the earth grids fields to harmonize them in balance, because the military is running another stuff called ULF, ultra low fields, on these grid lines, natural earth fields, grid lines. It's almost like the heart meridians of the planet, because the planet is a living entity. And this technology actually connects into it and harmonizes that field. So anybody else, whether they're 100 miles away or on another continent, turns one of these on, they sync together and they harmonize the fields in between. So I'm on the San Andreas Fault here, obviously, as we know, right on top of it, Baja, as was Fred Bell, which is this Palladian technology up here that I'm experimenting and playing around with. There's a star orb that emits and basically absorbs all your EMF radiation coming in from any direction and grounds it out. So you can have what's called a clean space, and people literally feel it when they walk in here. It's hard to describe. It's just an energy thing. And then over here, we got something I'm just recently working on. This is a, from Dr. Bell, created a negative ion generator technology, an ion shower technology. And basically what this is I'm using an anti-gravity board to create negative ions and running that high discharge through a bump up, step up, as you can see here, if you know this technology. I'm actually showing proprietary shit here, so please put a notice there. I don't mind. Anybody wants to try and copy this, go for it. If they want to set the frequencies, they can build this organite machine like I've done, go for it. But at the moment, I'm building it for Paradigm. That was Fred Bell's company for his daughter, Megan. And I'm also the builder of the biophoton, which is not being, there's no pieces of it here, but it gets built here. And this is what I really wanted to talk about. This is the future of healing, but it's a mess at the moment. So let me get some of this stuff out of the way. Star Wars shit. Kids put it all down here. Okay, so what we're looking at here, all we're looking at really is just this piece of paper. And this is by the Dalai Lama. And what this does is, it is a form of radionic transference. And by intention, or prayers, similar to how prayers work. So what I've got in the system at the moment is I've got some of the humic fulvic. This is actually Dr. George Merkel's stuff, the super mitochondria activating stuff on the sending sample side. And then the person's names go in here, wherever their locations are, their names, dates and birth dates and so forth. General location doesn't have to be specific, like what state you're in, what continent you're on. And what this does is it'll send those things to them and heal them. I've got literally some stage 4 patients in here right now, still vibrantly alive and doing quite well. Stage 4 as in they went to hospice before they got to me, and they're doing great. I was actually treating at one point James Cameron, the last survivor of the Philadelphia experiment. But as you know, he left us recently. So let's go see what Lawrence is up to. Walking into the mad headquarters. Hey, Lawrence, you on the call? Are you safe? Is it safe to come in?
Yeah.
Here's the mad headquarters right now for Living Hope. And there's the master, Lawrence.
What's up,
Say hi to
Lawrence? Woo! Hey.
Well,
Great. How you doing?
man, I'm at work.
Any updates you can share freely, or nothing at the moment?
No.
No. But this is all good, right? Thumbs
Oh,
up.
yeah, it's all amazing, actually. It's a bit much to handle all at once.
Yeah, we're going to need to allocate some tasks pretty soon and get some people coming in and helping and really organize what we're doing here. Not just start talking about it, but we're in an org board situation right now. Funding's at the door, major funding's at the door. So just kind of organize everybody what we're all talking about here. Let's figure out some way to organize a central location like Ring Central, where we can, and we're there, we're all there. You know, anybody else that we're bringing into these calls, plug them into Ring Central. We can always create separate groups. So even if we have a bunch of people in one group causing distractions, we can create subgroups to get with the working people that want to have, you know, boots on the ground, functionally doing something every day. Yeah, we got to talk about it, but then let's talk about it and do something. Let's take the action. You know, yes, we need the money that's coming, but meanwhile, let's just start getting organized. That's what I'm doing right now. This looks like a mess to you guys, but I've actually revamped this whole place. I'm revamping upstairs. I'm creating offices. This whole house I have, which I'll show you right now. This is the bottom floor. All right, and this is the Tahoe. Got a new engine in it. Just got to do a paint job. And this is ready to go. This is my 4-wheel drive for all the fun down here. And we've got a trailer. I got an RV I got to bring down here. The downstairs aquaponic system, and then you get a view of the house from one side of the property. It's on 2 lots. So pretty immense. $900 a month. You can't get this anywhere. An ocean view, as you'll see shortly. Is my audio still good? Thumbs up. Still good audio? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, beautiful, Jeff. Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay. Now we're back up to the floor I was on. Just flip the camera. And I'll just show you this floor real quick. And you guys are welcome to come here. I expect to see you all here. I mark my words, we'll have people like Cameron here, JJ Abrams, you name it, they'll be here. So we got a nice big kitchen. And as you know, kitchen is always the heart of the home. And a nice dining area we're rearranging at the moment. Schauberger.
Can you, are they, sorry, can we just say hello quickly?
Anybody can say hello anytime and slowly if you like. I'm in no rush.
Chase wants to say hi to Dr. Rao.
Yes, hi there. I just wanted to say, yeah, so obviously we're at the climate strike right now.
Yeah, he's seen some of your videos, Dr. Rao, and I'm still telling him about the other videos like Prayer for Compassion. Go check those out.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that stuff. I've found your content on YouTube and stuff and watched a lot of it and looked into some of those things. It's really interesting. I really enjoy it. And I've got friends too that really enjoy it as well. Yeah.
So yeah, Chase is going to spread the word.
Absolutely. I'm going to let everyone know.
Thank you so much.
Chase.
Thank you. Here, I'll give you back over there.
Okay, I'm going to have to say goodbye because my battery's down to last few percentage. So thanks, everybody.
Miles.
Catch on the replay.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you're doing out there in the cold. We appreciate you.
Thank you. See ya. V for vegan.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jeff, it looks like you've got the new center of the universe there, which is super exciting.
This is what I see when I wake up every morning. So it maintains and sustains my vision. And it was here when we got the place.
Wow.
Yeah, I plan to make our backyard and all around us look just like that by moving some rocks around, some plants around a little bit, very little to no money, literally at all, actually, and make it look like that. So anywho, got a bitchin' ass bathroom, jacuzzi tub, got to reinstall the pump, but that's ready to go. So this place is going to be a very relaxing, healing headquarters to do what we're here to do. And as you can see, the rose quartz on the entire flooring in here, so extremely grounding. You decent? Now we got Dylan up here in the room at the moment, gaming, budding with his buddies. Say hi. And one more room upstairs over here. These are all the guest rooms I'm using right now. So when you guys come in here, you'll be in rooms like this with a view of the pyramids, the mesa, a very sacred mountain out right there in the distance. If you can see that or not, kind of hazy a little bit. This is everybody healing the planet. And this is the girls section where the girls stay. Office in here. And then the big section, this is going to be completely revamped. My daughter Sunshine's here at the moment, but she's not going to be here in this room section. So this will be turned into a big area with offices for the girls. So they have a section, the girls have their own section, separate from the guys. And then we go up to the roof. Hope I'm not boring anybody.
No. In 5 minutes, we're going to have to shift gears, and I do want to give...
I know, I'm trying to go fast. I'm about done. So anyways, here's the antennas I was talking about. These are the top antennas that I'm shooting out over Rosarito right now that I can basically anywhere here in town, I've already tested it, light up a mobile signal and create a hotspot in literally seconds. And you're streaming 4K while you're FaceTiming or Zoom call with zero buffering. So this is my view from the roof where we're at. We got a base station set up here. The convention center is right over the hill there. This whole green section you see, all this was going to be Magic Mountain at one point. And $60 million budget got put on hold because I believe they have no water. So I'm happy about that. We're going to build an eco park here. And I'm breaking ground on the first one with the BioVita technology that I may have shared with you guys, biovita.co, BIOVEDA.co. That's Alasha Linov, Russian, who is currently in Africa at the moment, Johannesburg, but moving back to Russia. And then he'll be down here in a few months working on our projects with us, including the tribal project, the hemp stuff we're doing, and all that stuff. It's okay. That's all. I'm done.
Awesome.
Anything else is at Planet One Solutions. Kitty cats here. We got lots of wildcats that are all very loving, and that's Prada, who's extremely loving. On the side. Good.
Beautiful, Jeff. Thank you. Wow. Amazing. Man, thank you.
And that was just scratching the surface.
I feel you. Totally cool. We would love to visit you there. I lived in Mexico for 5 years, fluent in Spanish. I'm part Spanish, so would love to visit you down there. Silas, thank you so much for your patience with the different, show and tells. It's been super cool. And L has had his hand up patiently. So L, if now is a good time for you. And welcome to Buddy James, who just joined.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
My name's Lawrence. There's this issue of how to create a movement that is potent enough to drive forward a new cycle of world change. I'd like to argue that the only way to do that is to form a new form of religio. So not religion, but religio, a new way of binding people together into a community that can work towards a common goal. And I would like to argue that the only way to do that is to feed the people by creating a ritual of actual feeding, of the preparation of food and the free giving of food in as many places as possible simultaneously, to synchronize everybody's behavior around the act of giving. And around that communal fire, a community will grow. And from that spark, on top of that, around that, one can create a movement.
Beautiful, beautiful, Lawrence. Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to have to talk because, a bunch of us are going to have to talk because we're all about feeding the world, ending hunger. And I hadn't connected the dots like you have, so we definitely need to talk. And thank you so much, Silas, for being just so generous and open in the sharing and everything. I'm going to turn it over to Silas so you can have the last words prior to us shifting gears to SRM. Solar radiation management, which we'll talk about in the next 2-hour segment, starting any time now, but no hurry. We're also waiting for Dr. Yetow of Harvard to join us. He should be on any time now. Welcome to all the new folks joining, and back to you, Silas.
Well, thank you so much for the forum, Jamin, and thank you so much for all your contributions. Everybody, Lawrence, I really appreciated what you said at the end. I think you're onto something there, creating a ritual, creating something like that would be a great way to have a movement. I always had this idea of a veggie gras party, it's like Mardi Gras, but it's veggie gras, that everyone eats at the same time together. That's a great idea. Thank you. And I'll see you all next week again. Next week, I'm going to be talking about the social change that needs to happen. So it's an update on what I did last year. So thank you very much for the forum, Jamin. As always, it's great to see you, and we'll keep seeing you again.
And Silas, thank you. I know I speak for everyone when I say this has been one of the most incredible sessions ever. And it just keeps getting better because as more of us join and as we do this more, we're co-creating this new world, new story, new game, new transformation, global transformation. So thank you, Silas, for being, so far the strongest pillar. And please remain always a strong pillar of the block party and everything we do together. Well, we're together for the long haul. So I'm hanging in the vegan world. You're hanging over here. Thank you so much, Silas. Love you so much. And come and go as you please. This block party, this is your home. So just come and go as you wish. All righty. And I want to welcome all the new folks who are joining. They're popping on the screen faster than I can keep track. And in fact, I'm going to ask my brother Dylan to help out here.
Of course. No, this is great. I'm just letting the room fill up a bit. Give a few more minutes. Thank you, everyone, all my colleagues, my family members,